My name is Omar Hakim. I'm a drummer, producer, and a composer. A lot of people know my work from artists like Sting, Madonna, Miles Davis, David Bowie. I've had a really fun and interesting career because I'm always doing unexpected things. Did a really cool project with the band Daft Punk, an album called Random Access Memories. And we actually did a performance at the Grammys last week. The album took 5 Grammy Awards, which was a really exciting night for those guys and for the band as well. So I've also been in the studio with my own project. And I'm putting out my 3rd solo album this year. The album is called We Are One. And I want to say that today is the last day of mixing. So I'm very excited about that. It'll be sent out for mastering tomorrow, and it will be out in the world very soon. Once I got away from digital tape, because I did the ADAT thing for a moment in the 90s, and made some recordings, got some really good results. But at the same time, I was hawking a program called Sound Tools. And I noticed that it went from 2 tracks to 4 tracks to 8 tracks. Around 97 or 98, DigiDesign put out Pro Tools 24. And that's when I got my first Pro Tools rig. And now I'm on Pro Tools HDX. So I've been a long time adopter of the Pro Tools technology, and it's been working great for me. I think we're at the point, because of high resolution audio, 64-bit AAX plugins and so forth, it's pretty amazing that the stuff sounds smooth, clean, fat. It's amazing to me what's going on. And I want to say that Sonnox is right at the cutting edge of this technology. Right now, I would say that the Sonnox plugins are an indispensable part of my production work. Not only in mixing, but even in tracking. I use them constantly. Once I start a mix, one of the first things I like to do is get the Oxford limiter on that master bus. I think by putting it on the master bus right after or soon after I start a mix, I start to get sort of like a real idea of what this thing is going to sound like in the end. And I think it's important to have a tool like this that helps you get control of your dynamics, but in a way that doesn't completely change the sound of the session. Sometimes you need a compressor that actually has a character, but other times you want dynamic control that's transparent, and this limiter does an amazing job of that for me. When I first started working on this piece, I actually started the process on the Roland V drums. I use the Roland V drums a lot during the writing of my music because I can sit the entire kit in the control room. I can also capture MIDI and audio data simultaneously. And by having that MIDI data as a part of the session, I could go back and change the sound of the V-Drums kit to whatever I needed to be in the final production. But interestingly enough, on this particular song, I decided to use live drums. You know, the album is kind of balanced with like 50-50 V-drums and live drums. But this particular song, I needed to hear some air moving in a room. So my buddy Rich Zoli came by, and together we mic'd up the kit. We got a really cool sound on the drum set, and then I had to figure out what I did on the V drums and get it to translate over to live drum set. What we did was, I'm going to say we captured almost like 4 different perspectives on the room. I think we had like a a drummer's perspective over my head. Sometimes I do that with a 1-point stereo mic. Other times I'll do it with a mono mic. It depends on how I'm going to blend it in later. But I think it's an important perspective to record because it's the proximity of my ears to the drums and how I'm referring to the drums when I'm actually tuning the kit. So it's an interesting way to capture it for the listener because they actually hear the drummer's perspective. On the other hand, we have a nice space out there that we can record as well. So we position 3 other microphones, ribbon, a couple of condensers and what have you, just to capture different tones in the room. And we were able to blend, and even in this mix, like there's a drum solo part where I actually accentuate one of the rooms over the other, then I pull it back for the next section. So I'm able to create a lot of drama and a lot of movement just by opening up a room mic here and closing it and featuring a different room mic in another part of the mix. And I think what happens is this, like, you feel this like excitement happen, like, whoa, what was that?
I didn't know that's tasty.
Oh! My idea with this song was to create something fun for my drummer fans, you know? Drummers like a challenge. I know that as a kid when I was listening to some of my favorite drummers, I would always grab those records and sit down and try to learn those parts, and it's always fun to do that, and it actually helps you discover your own style by studying other people's styles, right? So my thought with this was just create a really fun thing with just me going for it, you know, improvising and just seeing what I come up with. Then it goes to this kind of almost straight dance groove. And interestingly enough, what I did for that part of the record is that I actually copied the kick drum, which is like a 4 on the floor kick, to another track so that I could EQ and affect it a little differently. So what I did was I actually have the entire Oxford kitchen sink on this kick drum track. So the first thing I did with it to tighten it up was I used the Oxford Dynamics gate. And then next in line, I used an EQ, and I gave it a nice little boost there, some sub harmonics around 50-60 hertz, just to get the woofers moving a little bit. Then after that, I used the dynamics again, but this time a compressor to kind of level out the dynamics of the kick drum. And then right behind that, I got the transmod in there just to bring out some more punch. And then after all of that, we've got the Oxford reverb, the last thing, and I'm using a preset that I tweaked a little bit called Drum Ambience Tight number 2, just to kind of put it in a room and get that kind of resonance from a real, you know, room. So. Now all I have to do is remember how to play this beat.